So I've been reading through Judges. We've been talking about Samson for the last few times I've taught. This will be the third time I've spoke on Samson. Last time I broke it up a little different, and we looked at the ways that Samson was faithful and what he did that God had showed him to do. This time we're going to be reading about some of the things that he didn't choose so well to do. It's not on?
Yeah.
Hello?
There you go.
Okay. So, I'm going to be reading from Judges 14, 5 through 20. I have to tell you that the third concept I'm going to be talking today, the third point I will be making about Samson, is one of the things in all of Christendom, probably the thing I struggle with most, with understanding. And so I'm hoping that I can share that with you, and hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about. So starting at Judges 14, we're going to be reading verses 5 through 20, and then I'm just going to continue on through 15:8. So 14:5 through 15:8.
14:5 and 15:8.
Correct. Starting at 14:5 and finishing at 15:8. So he said to them, no, that's not the right place. Not 14:14. So Samson went down to Timnah with his father and mother and came to the vineyards of Timnah. Now, to his surprise, a young lion came roaring against him, and the Spirit of Jehovah came mightily upon him. And he tore the lion apart as one would have torn apart a young goat. I've never been able to even tear apart a young goat, so I don't know about that. Though he had nothing in his hand, but he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After some time, when he returned to get her, he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, a swarm of bees and honey were in the carcass of the lion. He took some of it in his hand and went along eating it. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they also ate. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So already, Samson has taken something that was unclean, and not only did he partake in it, it's unclean because it came out of the body of the lion. He shared it, and he didn't tell the people what he knew was wrong. He had them partake in his sin with them. He had them partake in the sin with him without telling them. So, his father went down to the woman, and Samson gave a feast there for young men used to do so. And it happened when they saw him that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said to them, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can correctly solve and explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing." And they said to him, "Pose your riddle, that we may hear it." So he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet." So here again, we have Samson posing a riddle to get some clothes. And I'm sorry, but without any context, I don't know how you could solve this riddle. There's so I think, that he's using trickery and deceit. Now, for 3 days, they could not explain the riddle. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband, that we may explain the riddle to us, or else we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us in order to take what is ours? Is that not so?" Then Samson's wife wept on him and said, "You only hate me. You do not love me. You have posed a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me." Now I believe that she knew that these evil men would burn her house down. I believe in fear that she did this, but how it may have been different if she would have just been honest and told Samson what had happened. And he said to her, "Look, I have not explained it to my father or my mother, so should I explain it to you?" Now she had wept on him the 7 days while their feast lasted. And it happened on the 7th day that he told her, because she pressed him so much. Then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. So the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, "Which is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you have not plowed my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle." Then the Spirit of Jehovah came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon and killed 30 of their men, took their apparel, and gave the changes of clothing to those who had explained the riddle. So his anger was aroused, and he went back up to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man. After a while, in the time of wheat harvest, it happened that Samson visited his wife with a young goat. And he said, "Let me go into my wife into her room." But her father would not permit him to go. Her father said, "I really thought you thoroughly hated her. Therefore I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister better than she? Please take her instead." And Samson said to them, "This time I shall be blameless regarding the Philistines if I harm them." So I want to go back. Here he's saying, what I did before in anger, probably shouldn't have done. His own self-admission that he let his anger control him, and he killed those 30 men for their clothing. But this time, he will remain blameless because of what had happened. Then Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and he took torches, turned the foxes tail to tail, and put a torch between each pair of tails. When he had set the torches on fire, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines, and burned up both the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. Then the Philistines said, "Who has done this?" And they answered, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion." So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. Samson said to them, "Since you would do a thing like this, I will surely take revenge on you, and after that I will cease." So he attacked them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. Then he went down and dwelt in the cliff of the rock of Edom. I'm going to continue reading in Judges 16:1 through 21. Now Samson went to Gaza and saw a harlot there, and went into her. When the Gazites were told, "Samson has come here," they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city. They were quiet all night, saying, "In the morning, when it is daylight, we will kill him." And Samson lay low till midnight. Then he arose at midnight, took hold of the doors of the gate of the city, and the 2 gateposts, pulled them up, bar and all, put them on his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Does anybody know where Gaza's at? Gaza's in the land of Philistia. It is not where he had driven them out of in Judea. Last time we heard about him driving the Philistines out of Judea. Why had he come to Gaza? That's for another point. We'll continue on. But he takes, before it's daylight, he takes the doors off the gate of the city and uses it as a shield, as you would say. And as these men are woken up in stupors, like, what's going on? We're waiting for daylight. He just rushes through and goes up this hill with these two large shields on his arm. And I don't know, but I would call that a little arrogant. So we see some of his arrogance coming out here, where he can just go where he pleases and do what he likes. Afterward it happened that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, entice him and find out where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And every one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, please tell me where your great strength lies, and with what you may be bound to afflict you. And Samson said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, then I shall become weak, and be like any other man. So the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings, not yet dried, and she bound him with them. Now men were lying in wait, staying with her in the room. And she said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he broke the bowstrings as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, look, you've mocked me and told me lies. Now please tell me what you may be bound with. So he said to her, if they bind me securely with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Therefore Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. And the men were lying in wait, staying in the room, but he broke them off his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Samson, until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me what you may be bound with. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head into the web of the loom. So she wore it tightly with the batten of the loom, and said to him, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the batten and the web from the loom. Then she said to him, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength lies. And it came to pass, when she pestered him daily with her words and pressed him so. Does this sound familiar to anyone? It's the same sin from 20 years ago. So that his soul was vexed to death, that he told her all his heart, and he said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I will become weak and be like any other man. When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up once more, for he has told me all his heart. So the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hand. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees, and called for a man, and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, the Philistines are upon you, Samson. So he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out as before at other times and shake myself free. But he did not know that Jehovah had departed from him. Then the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza. They bound him with bronze fetters, and he became a grinder in the prison. So that last sin was presumption. He presumed that even though he had given the secret away, that somehow God would continue to give him his strength. What are the three things we can learn from Samson's life? The first point I wanted to make is that our character is defined by our actions. What we do matters more than what we say. And I wanted to turn to Proverbs 20, verse 7 through 11. Proverbs verse 20, 7 through 11. The righteous man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. A king who sits on the throne of judgment scatters all evil with his eyes. Who can say, I have made my heart clean, I am pure from my sin? Diverse weights and diverse measures, they are both alike in an abomination to Jehovah. Even a child is known by his deeds, whether what he does is pure and right. I would challenge you this week, or even today sometime, reading through Proverbs 20. There's a lot of these Proverbs that are about doing what you say, or doing things that are of good character. And the other verse I'd like to use is James 1. Check ahead, Mark. James 1, 22 through 27. So James 1, 22 through 27. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror. For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and it is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does. If anyone among you thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this one's religion is useless. Pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. And also, I didn't look up a specific Torah verse, but that's exactly what the Torah is. It's a guide on how to live and the actions that we are called to do to show that we love God. Second point, stay away from the areas that cause us to sin. There was no reason for Samson to go to Philistia. He had handled them. They were in a safe place. Philistia was afraid of him and we're not coming back to Israel. He had made a place, but Gaza was the city on the southernmost end of Philistia. It's not like he just went across the border and said, well, here's someone. No, he made a point to go to be at the place where he should not have been. Okay. Turn with me to 1 Timothy. Verses 9 through 12. 1 Timothy 6, verses 9 through 12. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. This is the verse I wanted you to hear, but I like to make sure you understand the context. But you, O man of God, flee these things, and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, gentleness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, to which you were also called, and have confessed the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. And I wanted to look also at Job 31, 1 through 3. And I know that that last concept was about money, and this one is about a woman, but it's still, and we're talking about a physical place, but also Samson did allow his lust to cause him to sin. So, Job 31, 1 through 3. I have made a covenant with my eyes. Why then should I look upon a young woman? For what is the allotment of God from above, and the inheritance of the light of the Almighty from on high? Is it not destruction for the wicked and disaster for the workers of iniquity? This is saying, don't go to that place where you know you shouldn't be.
Amen.
And again, Torah is filled with the boundaries. If your animal has gored someone, then you put a fence around it. If your neighbor is doing something, we have the 10 Commandments. These are boundaries to put into our lives to keep us from doing the things or away from the places we should not be. At this point, this is the one that I struggle with the most. Jehovah will use whomever he chooses to use. And for me, that's a struggle. I read in Isaiah how he uses Babylon to capture Israel and bring them down. And I think in my head, why can't you bring someone along that shows them the right way to do it? Because they're the ones that are supposed to be showing the people the right way. Israel is the people called to be that light. In 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7, and I know a lot of you, even before I turn to that, know what that is. And you might be confused of what? But I want to read it. 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7. And again, I know this is what he expects of elders. It's just one of the type of people he calls. It's not the expectation for everyone. But I want to read through it. It is 1 Timothy 3, 1 through 7. This is a faithful saying. If a man desires the position of bishop, he desires a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior, hospitable, able to teach, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous, one who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being puffed up with pride, he fall into the same condemnation as the devil. Moreover, he must have a good testimony among those who are outside, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. We have these qualifications for what God says is a good leader of the church. And I think that any leader in my life, I should look for these kinds of things. And I see our leaders in the world today, and I wonder, why? Why are you not calling these men? Why are they not coming up? Where are they? That's my struggle. But let Paul remind us in Romans 9, 14 through 33. Romans 9, verses 14 through the end of the chapter. What shall we say then? Is there unrighteousness with God? Certainly not. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whomever I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whomever I will have compassion. So then, it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of God who shows mercy. For the scripture says to the Pharaoh, for this very purpose I have raised you up, that I may show my power in you, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. Therefore, he has mercy on whom he wills, and whom he wills he hardens. You will say to me then, why does he still find fault? For who has resisted his will? But indeed, O man, who are you to reply against God? Will the thing formed say to him who formed him, why have you made me like this? Does not the potter have power over the clay from the same lump to make one vessel for honor and another for dishonor? What if God, wanting to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy which he had prepared beforehand for glory? Even us, whom he called not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles, as he says, stop it.
Amen.
As he says also in Hosea, I will call them my people who are not my people, and her beloved who is not beloved. And it shall come to pass in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, there they shall be called sons of the living God. Isaiah also cries out concerning Israel. Though the number of the children of Israel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant will be saved. For he will finish the work and cut it short in righteousness, because Jehovah will make a short work upon the earth. And as Isaiah said before, unless Jehovah of Sabaoth had left us a seed, we would have become like Sodom, and we would have been made like Gomorrah. What shall we say then? The Gentiles who do not pursue righteousness have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness of faith. But Israel, pursuing the law of righteousness, has not attained to the law of righteousness. Why? Because they did not seek it by faith, but as it were, by the works of the law. For they stumbled at the stumbling stone, as it is written, behold, I lay it in Zion, a stumbling stone and rock of offense, and whoever believes on him will not be put to shame.
Amen. Amen.
I really have nothing more to add than that. So, Shabbat Shalom.
Amen. Great message.